With service second to none, Deary Brothers Lincoln of Iowa City has been earning the business of customers in Johnson County and the surrounding area since 2010. Deary Brothers Lincoln is a full-service dealership offering new Lincoln custom orders with a dedicated sales, service, and parts department. They are proud to be here for you. As a happy customer, the entire Deary staff was unbelievable to work with. They found the vehicles our family was looking for, and we will definitely be doing business with them in the future. Check out Deary Brothers Lincoln on Facebook and follow them on Twitter at Deary Bros. Hello and welcome to the Leave Your Legacy podcast. I'm your host, Kenya Murray, and today our guest is very special, family friend for over 20 years, Mr. Jeff Johnston. Jeff, welcome to the program.
Kenyon, I am super excited. I love the name of your podcast, Leave Your Legacy. It's all what you're about for sure. And I'm really excited to be here. And I'm not really sure what roads will go down, but I know they'll be entertaining ones.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have some laughs, so for sure. But for listeners who don't know that we're connected, how we're connected, it goes way back to my playing days. Your father was actually our team doctor, so I've known you for a long time. But tell our listeners where you grew up, how your family was growing up, and then I definitely want you to touch on your basketball career.
Jeez, okay. There's no blooper reels of that, right? They didn't have camera back in the 80s. I'm from Solon High School. That's where I went. Was fortunate enough to be fairly good at basketball, and ended up going to a junior college to play for 2 years in Marshalltown. They didn't have enough golfers, so I went out for golf too. So actually it was a 2-sport college athlete, with an asterisk by the second one. And it was great. You know, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a basketball coach. That was my first love. Being around the basketball team with my dad, being the team doctor, Lude hiring my dad. You know, we had Ronnie and Carfino and all those guys in my driveway, you know, when I'm in high school shooting baskets with them. And, you know, then you popped along, got to know you quite well. And then, I went to Northern Iowa thinking I'd be a basketball coach. Didn't really work out too well. Yeah. And then I went into accounting for, I think it was a day. And then I said, no, I'm not going to be an accountant. So then I ended up in finance. Yeah. And that's what I ended up majoring in. And then I had this long career building up an investment company over 32 years. So
yeah, no, I think, you know, your family obviously getting to know them, spending a lot of holidays and vacations and stuff like that. So for you growing up in small town, I think it's really interesting to talk to the guests about where they grew up and how they grew up. And obviously your dad being affiliated with the university. So what was life like growing up in Solon for all the Johnston boys?
I have 3 brothers. Steve's the oldest, Scott's older than me, and then Dan's 1 year below me. But, you know, I think growing up under that having that lens where we could see the athletes that behind the scenes, the average fan sees, you know, Chris and Keegan and you, and they see you as an athlete. And I got to see these guys like Ronnie and BJ Armstrong and as human beings, you know, see them come out to my house, cooking burgers with them, playing basketball. And then you go to school and you hear all the scuttlebutt. Everyone's talking about all these rumors and things. And I'm like, I kind of really know what's going on because I'm with them quite a bit with my dad. Yeah. So I've got a little insulated with that starstruck that a lot of people have. And just recently when I saw your son Keegan, I still just don't look at him as any other than Keegan Murray, the kid that came over and stayed at our house 100 times. You know, that's how I look at him. And it is kind of, honestly, it's kind of odd to see all this fame come, but it's well-deserved. Trust me. Yeah.
No, it is. I tell people this, you think it's different as a parent of an NBA player, but it's the same. You know, he comes home.
I don't see you as a parent of an NBA player. I just see you as a friend. I just see you as somebody that I grew up with, you know, and that's kind of a special way to look at this relationship is, you know, I really value those moments when you didn't have all that, you know, accolades. And now that it's there, it's like, enjoy it, lean into it, learn from it, you know? Yeah, for sure. Well, you touched on it a little bit, you know, you started out, you went to Marshalltown Community College, 2-sport athlete. Yeah. And then you went to UNI and obviously from there you got into financial planning and investments and things like that. So what was it that steered you towards a career in investments? And talk a little bit too about how you built up Premier Investments as one of the top financial firms here in the Cedar Rapids area. Yeah, it's funny because I didn't have any type of academic accolades to get a high-paying job. So I went to a place on campus. They had these interviews, and there was this company called First Financial Center, and this is how smart I am. Finance, the word finance. So I applied, and it was basically just a shell for a life insurance sales agency, which I didn't know that.
Right.
So I show up, and the guy's like, "How'd you like to make $50,000 your first year?" And I'm like, "Okay, sure, sign me up." Didn't know I was going to be selling life insurance. So that's how naive I was. As it turned out, getting thrown into the trenches like that at 23 and selling an intangible product, having to paint those ideas in people's minds, that was the best thing that could have happened to me. 100 hours a week, making pretty good money, spending good money. I was a compulsive gambler and an alcoholic for 30 years. So, I spent what I made very quickly, but I was a functional alcoholic. So I could build the firm up and focus heavy at the times I needed to do that. But then my off times, I didn't have an off button.
Right.
And, it got me in trouble quite a bit, but I held it back. And so people couldn't tell that as I was building the company up. But I think there's something about resiliency, and that's why my company's Living Undeterred is it's trying to show people that no matter what happens, there isn't necessarily a reason why things happen. Sometimes you got to make the reason yourself. That phrase, things happen for a reason. I'm not really convinced that's real for me.
Right.
It's like, things happen. I'll make the reason, and that's just having attention deficit too. I just don't have time to sit around and analyze things too much. So I just kind of make things happen that way. And it worked out well. I stumbled into the career. I sold insurance for a couple of years, then got all my licenses, and then started just adding key people. Like any team you build, you're only as good as the lowest level person on the team. And that's kind of how we build it up. My business partner, Brock, and I, who's one of your good friends too.
Yeah, for sure. So you touched on it too. So made money.
It's attention deficit. I get ahead of myself.
It's all good. No, you made money. You spent money.
Yeah.
So then comes along prudence.
Yeah.
How does prudence wrangle in Jeff Johnston at that time, who's just doing anything under the sun that he wants to? Like, tell us how that happened.
Yeah, I was 33 when I met her, and I just got out of a relationship, and so I was very angry. I didn't, so I went out with a couple friends to a bar, of course.
Yeah, we know the bar.
And I just said, dude, I'm not going to talk to any women today. I'm just kind of in that zone. And here comes this woman looking like Madonna in this flamingo outfit. And I'm looking at my friend and I go, that's the last thing I want to talk to tonight. Ended up marrying her. It's a just amazing story when you're not looking for something. Sometimes it's right in front of you. And that's a great metaphor for life, is that sometimes you have everything you need in front of you, but you're searching for other things. Although I wasn't searching for anything, it ended up being right in front of me. And so I think a lot of times we need to just slow down, breathe, and be more attentive and more aware for what is already in our life and not necessarily what we're trying to put into it.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Well, she got you. Yeah,
I'd say so happy. Met her and she had a young child named Seth, and Seth became, I met them together.
Yeah.
I'll get emotional, but and Seth became a big part of my life. And so here is this guy that didn't want to meet somebody, let alone someone with a child.
Yeah.
And it turned out being just the most awesome time in my life to just kind of humble me for a moment and make me realize that there's more important things than chasing money and having a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's probably a shock to the system a little bit. I wonder, what was the reaction when you came home and told Doc, your mom?
My mom and dad were great. They were like, I was starting to get in that age where you're in your 30s now, and I had like a 5-year relationship and a 4-year, and it's like, are you going to try to settle down a little bit? And she corralled me in, and I just instantly just really felt like an instant family.
Yeah.
You meet somebody that doesn't have a child, you don't have that. But when you have a child, it's like, it was right there. It's like, here's my opportunity to lean into this, to learn from it, you know?
Yeah.
And we hit it off great, and got married a couple years later, and then added 2 more boys, Roman and Ian. And here I am on your podcast.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think, one of the things we talk about, leave a legacy, and I know we'll get to it a little bit later, but that moment where you said you leaned into being a husband and a father right away, like, what is it? And I will continue to use present tense. What does it mean to you to be a husband and a father?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it means different things to different people, but I want to hear from you. What does it mean to you to be a husband and a father?
I like the present tense. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
To me, it's about an opportunity. It's about an opportunity to evolve as a human being. You know, we run through different stages and things happen in your life, either to you or for you. That's a phrase I like to use a lot when I talk. And so them coming into my life was just an opportunity for me to, you know, look at my life and where I was going and whether or not that was the road I wanted to stay on. And I put the brakes on all the things I was doing. Now, I still was an alcoholic and still was a compulsive gambler for those years, but the going out and that type of stuff, most of my drinking was at home. But it just, I don't know. I mean, you've been through it, you know what it's like, you know, when you get the brakes put on and you kind of feel like you're part of something now as a team. And I felt a responsibility that I need to be spending more time, you know, cultivating that, you know, and trying to be a good influence on Seth, you know, which got me involved in coaching when he was little and all the stuff that we did with the other boys, you know. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, and I have a quote that I read last week, and I'm going to read it. And it says, if you can't figure out your purpose, figure out your passion, for your passion will lead you right into your purpose. And, you know, I know your passion came out of some tragedy, you know, and so I want you to explain it and just talk a little bit about, to our listeners, the journey that you're on, how you got there. I know, you know, it get a little bit emotional.
Yeah, I'll cry.
Yeah, we both will. But just you have really, really leaned into this journey you're on, and it did. So tell us a little bit about the Living Undeterred project, where it came from, and kind of what you have a lot of good ideas or big ideas that we'll talk about. But I think our listeners need to hear your story.
Well, at age 50, I was on top of the world. Like I like to say, I was patting myself on the back. I built this investment company up, happily married 3 boys, traveling, just pretty much what I envisioned 50 would look like when I was 23. And then, you know, life changed on October 4th, 2016, like it does for a lot of people. As a matter of fact, it does for everybody eventually. If you live long enough, you'll get calls like I got, and ended up being a member of a club I didn't ask to join and one I can't leave. And that's our oldest son, Seth. Was found dead in a hotel room, overdosed from heroin laced with fentanyl. And that's how he died, but that wasn't who he was. And so it was the end of a 6-year journey with addiction, substance abuse that started with Adderall when he was diagnosed by a physician with attention deficit, which, you know, we all have. I have it. And it's been entertainment for people. It's never got me, well, I take that back. It's got me in trouble. But anyway, Seth was given this diagnosis, Adderall, and he just took it as a curse. Yeah. And I think it's the fact that we add the word disorder. We just stop at attention deficit. We don't as a society. So one of my big initiatives is labels and stigmas. And we can come up with labels, but we don't have to attach things like disorder, especially with kids. And so Seth believed that if he didn't take Adderall, he'd become a werewolf at midnight, eat his friends and all that. So started abusing it, marijuana, alcohol, arrested for drunk driving, breaking and entering, cocaine, prison, heroin, fentanyl, death. Just like that. And so I watched that happen. Ian was 15, Roman was 13, and my wife and I both were alcoholics at this time. So this just magnified the alcoholism. So I called the company up and said, I'm not coming in for a year. I need to get my stuff together, which the reality was there's a dynamic with suicidal ideation for those that have been through this, is where you don't want to die, but you don't want to live. And so I was in that purgatory. And for 14 months, my wife and I drank every single day. I mean, every day, and sometimes more than once a day. And then on December 24th, 2017, in Florida, after a night of drinking, I looked in the mirror, Kenyon, and I said, I'm done. I quit. And as a full-blown alcoholic, I quit. And it's been the easiest thing I've ever done in my life. The absolute easiest thing I've ever done. It's been 5 years now. I don't keep score because that implies that I'm giving up something. I don't call myself sober. That implies that I'm in a battle. I just don't drink. It's no more complicated than that. So a lot of my talks I give to people struggling with substance use and addiction is, let's get out of the way of ourselves. Let's don't play the traditional narratives. Let's don't make this anymore. Occam's razor says, the simplest answer is normally the correct one. just don't drink. I mean, I don't know how much more complicated it can be. I don't go to meetings. I go to meetings with friends for support. Whatever works for you, keep doing. But I thought quitting drinking, Kenyon, would help, but it didn't. And on June 29, 2021, I buried my wife of 21 years, Prudence, age 46, to alcoholism. You knew Prudence quite well. Yeah. Michelle and Prudence had a business together.
Thick as thieves.
Yeah. And so in a matter of 5 years, death came into my life, not as a curse or a punishment, but as an opportunity to be a better man, not a bitter man. And so I've leaned into it to learn from it. And, I don't fear death myself. I teach my boys that, it doesn't come in the right order. It rarely comes at the right time, but it does come. Yeah. And part of this living undeterred mindset that I talk to people about is your preparation and your expectations. As a society, we're just woefully unprepared for trauma and grief and bad things that happen, but it's just part of the deal. It's part of the deal. I miss them both. But I honor them through living an intentional life. That's how I honor them. But it's tough. I mean, it's hard. I cry every day, multiple times, but I've kept my pain intense and short and not long. And I think that's the difference between, say, depression and maybe a depressive moment. I can honestly say I've never been depressed. I've had suicidal ideation as recent as last Christmas, but I try to keep those moments very short, their lifespan very, very short. So again, all I'm trying to do with people is show people that it's possible to survive the worst possible thing, and not just survive. We don't want to survive, right? We want to thrive.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm at the best place I've ever been in my life. I'm 56 years old. I work really, really hard. This morning, I did an extra 30-minute meditation. I knew I was coming into your show. I tried to breathe a lot on the way down here because I was really excited to talk to you about this. I really value who you are as a person. All the other stuff that people get caught up on, that's great, but I value you first as a person. You're the same person you were the first day I met you. You haven't changed. And so for me, it's about being attentive in the moment. That's so important to me, and really appreciate everything. Just like being here at this moment, meeting your people out there in the studio, talking to you today, leaning into it, you know?
So what is, obviously with Ian and Roman going through all of this with you, what's been your message to them as they both have had to deal with the same loss that you have?
Well, you know the story. When Seth died, I sat him down and I said, boys, we have one of two roads to go down.
Yeah.
We have one road of anger, despair, and hatred, and we'll become alcoholics and addicts ourselves, or a road of inspiration and motivation. This can be the single greatest moment in our lives to impact the lives of others. I'm on the second road. I ask you to join me. So it was the metaphor I was creating to them that life is full of these type of choices. You have a bitter road and you have a better road. Which one are you taking? And so it was important for me, Kenyon, that I not tell them how to grieve.
Right.
As a parent, you didn't tell Chris and Keegan and Kenna how to do it. You just did it. Yeah. Right. And that's what I did. I wanted to show them how to live an intentional life despite or in spite of trauma, grief, those type of things. And so I think I've done a good job. Both boys have met with therapists. They're working out their things. So I'm hypersensitive that, they probably have more reasons than most kids to be concerned about. So I am watching them like a hawk, but at some point you got to let them out of the nest, right?
Yeah, for sure. No, I think, they're both exceptional. And obviously they both have done things in remembrance and honor of Seth and Prudence. And I think it goes without question what Ian decided to do in high school.
Right.
Was unbelievable. And to create a scholarship, a golf scholarship at Prairie was awesome. But tell our listeners about what Ian did through his golf in order to help, I wouldn't say combat, but help in this fight against addiction and mental illness.
Right after his brother died, Kenyon, and he died on the day of districts when Ian was a sophomore. Yeah. I was dropping Ian off. My book starts off on that chapter when I was dropping Ian off at school, and I got the call they found Seth dead. I didn't tell Ian anything. I just got in the car. And Ian went up to districts and ended up double bogeying the last hole, and they missed state. And so, for me, golf was part of our story. It happened the day of districts. The next year, Ian made a putt at Prairie to get Prairie to state for the first time on the same course. Golf became a big thing for us. So Ian decided after Seth died that he would raise money through the AJGA, which is like the PGA of junior golf. We signed up for this thing called Leadership Links. Ian started raising money. You guys donated. All of our friends did. We raised like $25,000, like a short amount of time after Seth died. And we gave half of that back to ASAC, which is the Area Substance Abuse Council in Cedar Rapids, which now I'm a board member. And that was to help teens and young adults make better choices with drugs and alcohol. And then it went viral. CBS Sports got a hold of it. They came out to our house for 4 days. They did a story on Ian when he was in high school about fundraising in honor of his brother. And then Zach Johnston got wind of it. The agent for the CBS Sports producer reached Zach, and Zach actually narrated the 9-minute documentary on the internet with to just put in Ian Johnston, CBS Sports. The beauty of that, by Zach adding his credibility, is it got us in front of more people. And so this story kind of started off with this kid from Iowa whose brother died on the day of districts to now this, unstoppable movement that we've created with the help of you and all the other people that are so supportive of what we've been through. And not just us, but there's 800 Americans, actually 825 a day, Kenyon, to die from diseases, drugs of despair, they call them, alcohol overdose and suicide. 825 a day dying in America a day.
That's wild.
It's preventable. The outcomes are often predictable, but they're very preventable. And we can do better as parents and as neighbors and as business owners to bringing attention to these issues. Less raising awareness, but more bringing attention. So Ian took golf, ran with it. It's like 5 or 6 chapters in my book. It's become a really big part of our story. And I think sports, and are about the best metaphor for life.
Yeah.
And really golf gets down to the pier because there's no timeouts. There's no substitutions. You snap hook your first drive of the day. I can't call in you to substitute for me. I have to play 4 more hours.
Yeah.
So it's a game of perseverance and living undeterred and skill. And I think sports just encompasses so much of what life is all about, resiliency and all that.
Yeah. And, I think because of you and this groundswell that you've created in our community, with Ian and what he's done and continues to do, where does Roman fit in this? What is Roman doing to continue to help support and grow and bring attention to the things that we've talked about? Because it'd be real easy for him to kind of get lost in the shuffle of you and Ian just because you're more public. But I know he's working behind the scenes to do things as well. So what's Roman doing in this?
Yeah, he's 19 right now. He's having a difficult time right now, I'll be honest with you. Last night was a very emotional night for him and I both. We were up pretty late. Since Mom died, it's been probably more impactful right now on the youngest one, on Roman. And last night, Roman finally opened that birthday card that his mom gave him. I know.
I remember.
When my wife died, it was the day after Roman's birthday. So Roman's birthday is the 28th of June, and his mom died the 29th. And then the 30th, he got a birthday card in the mail.
And I remember you saying he's
never read it.
Yeah.
And last night, he was having a really tough time with this whole thing. It's the weight of this is hitting him hard. And he said, "Dad, I'm opening the letter."
Yeah.
And he opened it, and I read it, and it was a moment that him and I'll never forget. It's like he was saving that letter for, I said, Roman, this is like your phone a friend. This is your get out of jail card, because he needed some inspiration.
Yeah.
And that letter just did something to him last night, did something to both of us, to read a note that his mom wrote, that was really, in the mail when she died. And to say this whole thing, Kenyon, has been, something amazing. It has been. It's been a humbling journey. It's taken me from a capitalistic mindset to all about me to something where I think Martin Luther King Jr. said it best himself: the greatest question, the greatest persistent question we have as humans is, what are we doing for other people?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and here's Martin Luther King Jr. Day, but he did say that, you know, what are we doing for other people? And that's what that's what it's all about right now. You know, I'm addicted to trying to figure out ways to, right now it's work with teens. That's kind of my calling, is Gen Z is where I'm kind of gravitating to, you know?
Yeah. Cause a lot of the numbers I know you share with us at board meetings and things like that, with that time frame of when
it's huge.
Yeah. You know, where you said you're focusing now is so important for us to be able to impact youth in this time frame. And you're a man of big ideas, and probably none bigger than what you tried to take on last year with your with the Living Undeterred USA tour.
Yeah.
So I'm blanking right now as far as how many states you visited, but tell us a little bit about that trip, what you learned, and how you're taking that experience and moving it forward in a way that you feel will impact not only our community, but the entire country.
Well, thanks for asking. Right after Seth died, I started trying to do some advocacy work. So I wrote a book. That was fun. It was tough, but it was very rewarding. And I know you're working on one. Yeah. We've talked about it. Started the podcast called Living Undeterred. That's been amazing. You were one of my first guests on my show. I meet people from around the world, literally around the world, of just the most heroic stories. And people hear what I've been through. There's people who have been through things that, you know, are unbelievably difficult. So that's great. Every show is like really deep like that, you know? I just really didn't feel like writing another book or doing more of my podcast. I just felt like I didn't feel like I was doing enough. Right. And that's a compulsion issue I'm working on. I know I'm doing enough, but I just don't feel like I am. So I just had this wild idea to get an RV. I've never been in an RV, drive around the United States for 95 days and raise $1 million for mental health. Yeah. So I went up to Camping World the next day, bought an RV, brand new 34-foot 2022 RV, got it wrapped, the Living Undeterred US Tour, a mental health initiative. Talked to my boys about it. You, among everybody else, tried to talk me, you know, not out of it, but hey, maybe you slow your roll a little bit, Jeff.
I remember you pulling out the map. We're looking at the map. I'm like, okay, like how are we going to do this?
I just made up, you know, and I tell you what, I had a lot of people really help me. I had some states fall through, and we just went out. I raised $35,000.
Yeah.
I wanted to raise $1 million.
Yeah.
I spent more than 35.
Yeah, okay. I know that. Yeah.
But it was the best time I ever had in my life with my boys. Yeah. I met some people that my life will never be the same. Literally going door to door around the country for 95 days, meeting strangers about drug addiction, alcohol, suicide ideation, depression, anxiety. How can you not change? I mean, how can you not be changed from the core of your DNA? Yeah. So I left my driveway one way, came back another. I'll never do it again. 95 days was too much. Yeah. We have 3 mini tours next summer lined up. So, you know, I want to be a little more intentional in our stops. We want to raise more money, and do more, but be less diluted. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. And you got a couple other things too. We had the Mental Health Expo
May 6th with you are a keynote speaker for us.
I'll be a keynote speaker for that. But then where can our listeners learn more about what you're doing now, what you're planning on doing in the future? I know you got some things that we're going to keep under wraps right now that you're working on that I think will be unbelievable to the population that we're trying to help. But yeah, so where can people find out more information about
it? It's www.livingundeterred.com, and then there's www.livingundeterred.org. So I have 2. I also host the Living Undeterred radio hour on WMT Radio every Thursday night, live call-in mental health show, 600 AM. It's on iHeartRadio as well. And tomorrow, this Thursday, we're doing veterans and mental health. So I have some tremendous stories about mental health planning for veterans this Thursday. And then later this summer, the big project called Brighten. Yeah. It's our teen mental health app I'm launching to impact millions of teenagers, specifically Gen Z, to build a personal mental health plan. Make them autonomous in understanding that mental health can be back in their control. And right now they've kind of lost it. Gen Z, the most anxious, most depressed generation of all time. However, Kenyon, first time in history, they're the first generation to have their New Year's resolution be mental health. First time ever. So they want help. They're aware they need help. we as adults, we as the boomers and millennials, we have to provide it to them because they need it.
Yeah.
They need it.
Yeah. No, man, I'm excited. But for all my guests, I always have a rapid fire question. So I want to ask you, and I think I might know the answer to maybe one of these out of the three. In all your travels, what is your favorite country to travel to and why?
Italy, because we named Rome Roman. I want to see Greece because I love Stoicism. So I practice. I wouldn't say I'm a Stoic philosopher, but I love the reframing aspect, some of the benefits, and they're a Greek philosophy. So Italy's my favorite. Greece is where I want to go.
Okay. Then there's a sub question here. Where's your favorite place to scuba dive?
Bonaire.
Bonaire.
I like Bonaire because it's land. You can dive. You can dive right off the shore.
Okay.
Most other dives are boat dives.
Gotcha.
Rotan second, Bonaire number one.
I knew Rotan.
I got to get you scuba diving, man.
Man, no.
You look good down there about 50 feet on a reef with sharks.
Michelle will be the one that you get. Because we were actually talking about that.
You snorkel though, right?
I snorkel, but we were talking about she wants to become a certified scuba diver as well. So I told her, you and Jeff, y'all can go do that thing. I'll just sit on the beach and sip on Mai Tai.
It's the greatest place ever at night to be in the ocean at night on a reef hearing the whale sirens. Kenyon, it is the most moving experience you can possibly have.
I'm not going scuba diving in the daytime, let alone at night. Like,
I'll be right behind you.
No, bro. No, I'm gonna leave that up to you and Michelle to do that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So golf is a huge thing. So what's your favorite golf course you've played?
Wingfoot this summer on our tour. We had some members at Wingfoot reach out to us. Ian got to play it for free. And it was amazing to be on the last hole, the hole that Mickelson double bogeyed in 2006 to lose the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
And Ian makes a 60-foot putt for birdie to shoot 74.
Oh, that's crazy.
And so that was like not only one of my highlights with my son ever, but just to be on Wingfoot. You know, it was so cool. And I want to thank the members there for they rolled out the red carpet for us. They were so, and that's what we learned on the tour, Kenyon, is people really like stories on mental health. They like to try to be vulnerable and share experiences. Yeah,
and that's the thing. I think, the one thing that might have been a little disappointing was maybe some of the support dropping off, on the tour. But through that, you've met some people. I mean, Alice Cooper, right?
Oh, yeah.
Alice Cooper, someone that you've connected with.
His stop was amazing,
Yeah, so it has opened up a lot of doors and given you perspective on ways, okay, how can we be better or at least more efficient or more focused coming out?
And we have a picture of the RV in front of the Kings Arena, so.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Oh, yeah, we went down
cool.
there. Keegan wasn't there. I knocked on the door and asked for Keegan. He wasn't there. So.
All right, last one, and we talked a little bit about this before, and I know you put a lot of thought into this, but what is your definition of legacy?
That's a great question. Matter of fact, the name of your podcast is amazing. I love it. Absolutely love it because you've always been about legacy ever since I met you. Always about trying to make that impact on the next generation. Still, why you still coach? Why you still coach? I mean, that's you're not doing it because okay. You want to leave an impact on the next generation. For me, I'd say it's about an opportunity to leave that impact on the next generation. What are you doing? What seeds are you planting? When I see a person today, and this wasn't this way back before I went on all this journey I'm on, I see stories. I don't see anything. I see a story. So part of my job is to pull these stories out of people when I meet them and then share them. So for me, part of legacy, living an intentional life geared towards legacy is storytelling, finding out we're all the same. Once you peel back the skin and everything else, I cry the same as you. I hope the same as you. I love the same as you. We're no different. We may have a socioeconomic different. We may look different, whatever, but inside we're all the same. All around the world, we're all the same.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. So I finish every podcast with a quote. And so I'm going to tip my hat to you on this one because I love this quote and you say it in most of your talks, but you say purpose becomes passion when it gets personal. And I think you exemplify that. I've seen just a laser focus for what you want to do. And I know that everything that you're doing and everything that you're planning is going to be a huge impact, not only in our community, but across the country. So I want to thank you for coming on. I want to thank you for being vulnerable. That's one of the things we talk about too, is being able to share who we are with the listeners. And I appreciate you, my friend. You inspire me. I couldn't imagine going through what you went through, but
well, you did. You were there. That's the thing. You were there. You knew Prudence. You coached Seth.
Yeah.
I mean, so you were there, Kenyon. You are part of the family, and that's the fabric that holds all this together is connection. The opposite of everything, of trauma, grief, suffering, pain, is connection. That's how we right this mental health ship in our country. Start connecting people, and that's what your podcast does. That's what social media can do. But it can be toxic as well.
Absolutely. And we see that every day, especially with the Gen Xers. So, Well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and joining the show. We're very, very excited that now we are listed, and you can find us on the iHeartRadio platform Spreaker. You can also go to the Talk About Network on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, wherever you get your podcast from. You'll find us. Remember to give us a like, hit that subscribe button so you know when the next episode drop. And until next time, I'm Kenyon Murray. This podcast is sponsored by Storyline Multimedia. Storyline is an Iowa City-based media company that specializes in creating high-quality video, photo, and audio productions for local businesses. Not only that, but they also produce a number of podcasts, including this one. So if you're interested in sharing the story of your business with the world, contact them today by visiting StorylineMultimedia.com. And remember, your story matters.